What's going on, guys? Welcome, and thanks for joining us on a Friday night for session 72 of Caniacsessions. As you can see, I am alone tonight so far. AB should be hopefully joining in here soon. He's come from work. And Brandon, I don't know if he just fell asleep or what the deal with him is. He was supposed to be in here, but he's not, and I can't get a hold of him. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'll pop in. We'll see. But we're going to get going. And I guess I'm going to hold down the fort tonight. So anyway, thanks for joining in. First things first, we are brought to you as a promotional partner with SeatGeek. Log on to SeatGeek.com, sign up, and use promo code caniacsessions. That's one word, no space between Caniac and Sessions. And you can get $20 off your first ticket purchase. It helps you, it helps us, and it helps SeatGeek. Take advantage of that. All right, so here it is, Friday night. We usually don't like to stream on Friday nights. However, given that last night was the conclusion of the Four Nations face-off, and tomorrow night we resume the regular season in Toronto at 7 o'clock, puck drop. That's an NHL Network game. We had to do it tonight, so get it in. Kind of the little the break here, the kind of the breakup spot between the Four Nations break and the next game. So here we are. Looks like Brandon's trying to join. Looks like something's wrong with his, it says device issue. Anyway, we'll see if he can join in. But anyway, wow. So the Four Nations face off. I think the last time we streamed, it was kind of like right in the middle of it. And, you know, we had realized that the product that was on the ice was a lot better. Here he is. What's up, dude?
My apologies. I have no idea what was going on there. I don't know why it did not want to work. I clicked on the link 3 times before it finally let me stay in here.
Oh, no worries. So let's back up. How you doing, buddy?
I'm all right. I'm pretty exhausted. For reasons I won't get into on the stream, work has been crazy lately, but I already told you about that.
Yeah, I feel you. Works crazy for me right now too.
Oh yeah, especially this time of year for you. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tax season. So yeah, late nights and long weekends. So anyway, I was just getting into the Four Nations stuff. Last time we talked, we kind of were in the middle of the Four Nations, and we kind of realized that, you know, the product that we saw on the ice was, I mean, beyond anybody could even predict, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, you know, we talked about how we thought it would be, you know, it would be physical. They would play hard, but we didn't know they were, you know, we said, well, they might drop the gloves. They might not. Didn't know there was going to be 3 fights in the first 9 seconds in that first US-Canada game. But, yeah, fresh off the championship game last night, Canada beats the US 3-2 in overtime on a Connor McDavid golden goal, I guess you want to call it. I don't know if you want to call it a golden goal in the Four Nations or not, but essentially that's what it was, an overtime goal for the win. And, you know, but I still thought that game, you know, was so close for various reasons. But, you know, if Jordan Bennington doesn't stand on his head the first 5 minutes of overtime, the U.S. likely gets another win. But yeah, I mean, I was so excited for this game leading up to it yesterday. More excited for a game than I've been in a long time, probably since the last time the Canes were in the Eastern Conference Final. And it delivered, man. It delivered. I mean, the ratings came out today. I think they said 16.1 million viewers in North America. I think it was like 9 point something in the US and another 6 million up in Canada. Great return. People watching the game that normally wouldn't watch hockey, you know, bought in. It was the talk of the sports world for about 48 hours. So what are your thoughts on that game, or what are your thoughts on the tournament as a whole?
So actually, I'm going to consult some notes of some stuff I said on my stream last night because I got a bunch of thoughts on this. So there's a multitude of things that they can do with this type of formula going forward. If it's up to me, the All-Star game is done. Like, I'm dead serious. I wouldn't have it again. It's been stale for a long time. And honestly, out of all the major sports, when you think about All-Star games, I don't watch basketball, so I won't say much about the NBA. The baseball All-Star game is the only one I like because that's a best-on-best game where people can play at 100% capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Hockey, it's been a pillow fight for years. When they went to the 3-on-3 format, it was interesting for a little bit. When they got away from the whole East and West style, or if you want to go way back in the day, the North America versus World All-Stars style, when they got away from all that and tried other stuff, it only, it was putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole trying to keep the All-Star game interesting. And what was really, indicative that it was going downhill was the skills competition got to the point where it wasn't nearly as interesting as it once was anymore either. I thought the last two skills competitions have been just not good. So here's what I think. You have a winning formula with this Four Nations face-off. Now, I don't think we're going to see this type of tournament again. The reason why is because this was a bridge the gap, get ready for the Olympics type of deal, and get people excited about the best on best that's coming up with that, because they already announced the World Cup of Hockey is coming back in 2028. So we're not going to see a 4-team tournament like this again. I don't think. We potentially could, but I don't think that this is going to happen again. That's part of the reason that I think the intensity got delivered in this tournament was when the 2028 World Cup of Hockey got announced, these guys knew, okay, this is going to be a one-time thing. You only get one chance to win it. So there's that. And I think that they could do some variation of this on years where you're not having the Olympics and not having the Four Nations face-off. You could do a 5-game series between the U.S. and Canada one season, and then you could do a 5-game season between Finland and Sweden in Europe and tap even further into the European hockey market another season. There's so many different things they can do with this.
Yeah, they really can. I don't know, though. I think you have to keep it rare. You got to be careful not to do too much, because if you do that, then it's just going to turn into, it's going to get watered down again, which is, so like if they just rotate every other year between the Olympics and the World Cup of Hockey, maybe that's sufficient. Maybe in the off years, maybe you don't do anything.
Have a break.
Yeah, because I mean, if you think about it, these high-end guys that are going to be on the rosters every year, the international rosters. There we go. That's what I was looking for. If these guys that are on the international rosters year in, year out, the McDavids, the Matthews, the McKinnons, these guys, they don't get that mid-season break ever, which I'm not saying they would want it. Like I think they would choose to play in the tournament or the Olympics 100% of the time, but maybe build a break every other year where they can take some time off mid-season and, I don't know, rest. You know what I mean? So and then it gives you, like, the fan, it gives you a year to where you are looking forward to, the next season. Like, that's just my thoughts. Like, I'm fine with doing away with the All-Star game altogether. Maybe you announce an all NHL team, first team all NHL or whatever the word is, just to have that accolade for the players. And then maybe you do that every year, but you don't necessarily have to play a game or do a skills competition.
You know what they could actually do? Another thing they could do. So you've got a bunch of options here, because you normally have, every team has their 5-day bye. They have their Thanksgiving break, their Christmas break. And during those years where you don't have a World Cup of Hockey or you don't have the Olympics,
Shorten the
season, give the guys 10 days off. Or since the NHL has been talking about going to 84, potentially 86 games, do an 84 or an 86 game season on the off years and then do 82 or less if it were up to me, but keeping it conventional, 82 games on the seasons where you have the Olympics and the World Cup of hockey. There's so many different things they can do with this, but like, I do not know one person, not one, who would rather watch the All-Star game or the skills competition over a conventional NHL game at this point.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. But I just think that I just want it to hold its, what's the word? It's
value.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to make it so often that it gets watered down. The Olympics is once every 4 years, and then you throw in the World Cup every other, between those. So you have something every other year, which is great.
Mm-hmm. That's one thing they were starting to do a little bit too much of with the outdoor games. Yeah. Was they were having them too often. When you only have 2 a season, it's significantly better, because if you remember, there was one season I think they had like 6. There was the Winter Class. Yeah, there was the Winter. I think it was the Winter Classic, the outdoor, or there was the Winter Classic, the Heritage Classic, and 4 Coors Light Stadium Series games. I think all occurred in one season. And I want to say that was back. Yeah, that's too much. Whereas it's like if you do 2 or 3 of those a season, like they did last year, where they had back-to-back games in MetLife, I want to say it was, where they had the Islanders and Rangers and New Jersey. Yeah, like if you do something like that once in a while, that's fine. And then if you want to have another mid-season spectacle, have a back-to-back outdoor game. There's a bunch of different things they can do, but the All-Star game needs to go.
Agree. Yep, 100%. Real quick before we continue, I want to go ahead and throw this in there. If you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and go down and hit the thumbs up button for us. Like the stream. Help us get some more traction. Also subscribe. Our analytics right now are showing that we've got more unsubscribed viewers than we do subscribed viewers. So if you're watching, just go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any live stream or whatever else we happen to put out. If you're watching on X, like and share the stream for us. We're trying to grow. So if you listen every time, help us out. So a couple comments here. Pops is with us. Hi, crew, on the road again. What is it with these Friday night road trips? He says, loved the opening 9 seconds of the first 9 seconds of the
I think what he's trying to say.
USA, yeah. He loved the opening 9 seconds of the first USA-Canada tilt, especially after the booing of our anthem. And then he says, sorry, had to type and drive. And stop that.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
No texting and driving.
You do that where I live, you will die.
But yeah, the opening 9 seconds was amazing of that first game.
I was expecting 0 fights, and we got 3 in 9 seconds.
I know. It was. I was shocked. Like I was literally. I couldn't believe it. B. Hey B. B says, as a fan, I loved it, but it has to be hard on the players. Some got injured, unfortunately, and never got a midseason break. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I've got that written down here in my notes to discuss. Pops again says Canes were represented well in the Four Nations. Yes, we're going to talk about that as well. So yeah, let's start with the championship game. Well, no, I mean, yeah, the championship game, but more so the Canes that were representing, their 2 nations in the game. Jacob Slavin and Seth Jarvis, right? So Jacob Slavin, and not just the championship game, but the tournament as a whole. This guy put on a clinic against some of the best players. Well, not some of the best players in the world. And he just looked like he was a man amongst boys. Defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And if you notice in that game last night, Connor McDavid was, he was a ghost all night long. And that's because he was drawing the Slavin Fabro pair. Right? What did I say?
You said Faber. I think you meant Faber.
Faber, yeah.
Oh,
Anyway.
and I just real quick, I want to say this because a bunch of people are speculating about this. Brock Faber's not coming to Carolina. It's not happening. I would love for that to happen, but Minnesota loves the guy. He's their future, and he's from there. He is not coming here.
No, he's not. But anyway, and then you saw in overtime when McDavid scores the goal, it comes off of an icing, and Canada throws out their top line, all their studs, and we get Adam Fox and Noah Hannafin on the ice, and they just totally, crap the bed. I saw a breakdown of that play. And, right off the face-off, Canada was kind of trying to do the over-under. They were going to send the guy that was lined up on the circle toward the boards under, the face-off center, the face-off dot, and then the guy on the outside came across the top. And then, Matthews' job was to guard McDavid. But what happened is Adam Fox misread his assignment. He leaves Mitch Marner by himself down, on the boards. Marner gets the puck. As soon as Adam Fox realizes that, oh no, I left Mitch Marner by himself. That's my guy. He starts skating toward him. Austin Matthews realizes that Mitch Marner is alone. So Austin Matthews starts skating toward Mitch Marner, which leaves Connor McDavid wide open in the slot. Marner gives him the puck. McDavid buries it. Nothing Connor Hellebuyck could do. So that play is blown assignment on Adam Fox, who had a horrible tournament. Anyway, that aside, Jacob Slavin was the talk of the hockey world and even outside of the hockey world for the better part of a week. He absolutely deserves it all. What are your thoughts on his performance and the hockey world taking notice of what us as Canes fans have been trying to tell people for years?
So part of the reason there's such a disappreciation nowadays of great shutdown defense like what Jacob Slavin plays, you got to look at the scope of how the media covers stuff. If you go to watch a condensed game or a highlight reel, Sports Center Top 10, whatever NHL network decides to show, it shows the goals, it shows the really big saves, occasionally it shows a big hit, but about the only time you see a defensive play is if it's like someone going to block an empty net desperately. That's the only way a good defensive play gets signal boosted really well. Now, the difference is all eyes were on these games as far as the hockey world and most of the sports world were concerned. And to make the defensive plays Jacob Slavin made, he had to take it to another level because he was constantly playing against the best players in the world in a best-on-best situation. Part of the reason those things are not appreciated are because metrics don't really reflect good defense. I know a lot of people want to cite, the whole expected goals thing. Well, Jacob Slavin was at the bottom of Team USA's expected goals percentage. But anybody who watched those games knows that he did anything but play poorly. He played amazingly. And that's one of the things that it is with stats is they don't always reflect things that you have to visibly confirm yourself. So what it comes down to is, one, defense isn't appreciated because we're in a league where the dynamic or the whole landscape has changed to, does this guy play flashy? Does he get points? It doesn't matter if he's a forward or a defenseman. But in the case of Jacob Slavin, not the flashiest player, but anybody who watches him understands what he brings to the table and what results come because of his play. And the hockey media or media in general just doesn't have a great appreciation for defense, because when you look at, like, okay, football, for example, if someone's a really good corner or a really good safety, you know who they are. Baseball, someone runs 100 feet and makes a diving catch, you know that it happened. Hockey, not so much. And there's a lot of times where you don't even make contact with the puck or make contact with the player you're trying to defend against. One of the best examples of that, Nathan McKinnon was going into the zone in the game on Saturday with a ton of speed. anybody else would have crumbled in that situation. Jacob Slavin never even had to like try to get a takeaway or anything in that situation. McKinnon just basically gave up and coughed up the puck.
Yeah.
Not anybody does that, and there is no metric on this planet that reflects how important a situation like that was and how quietly dominant Jacob Slavin was in that situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, defense is hard to quantify for sure.
It's
Especially
nearly
in hockey.
impossible.
Yeah. Which is why that's why the Norris Trophy has become, the best offensive defenseman, because you can quantify it. So, but to solve this issue, we would just make a trophy for the best defensive defenseman and call it a day. But, anyway, I just thought it was great to see him get his roses, because he deserves it. He's deserved it for so long. We know who he is, and we know, how he can play and what he can do, because we watch him every night. But, a lot of other people don't, outside of, this fan base. So
he's a household name now.
Absolutely. Especially, amongst the hockey community. Absolutely. Because look, a lot of us were kind of throwing stuff out there about him being the tournament MVP. Look, I thought he had a real shot. Like if the U.S. pulls that game out last night and they win, he had a legitimate shot to be the MVP.
Yes.
I mean, he just did. Every talking head in the media was talking about Jacob Slavin. And so, who knows?
And before anybody thinks that we can't have 2 trophies for defensemen because of how our defense is to quantify, the NCAA does it. The NHL can do it.
Yeah. I mean, they've got plenty of they literally have an offensive or a defensive forward trophy known as the Selke. If you can have a trophy for the top defensive forward, you can have a trophy for the best defensive defenseman.
Might as well just name it the Slavin.
I mean, if you're looking for a name.
It has a good ring to it, the Jacob Slavin Award. He never in a million years would go for that just because of how humble he is, but it's like...
You don't have to bless off on it.
Oh, I know I don't, or he doesn't either.
He doesn't, yeah.
I would name it that if it were up to me.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I heard an interview today. Tripp was talking to Adam Gold on Adam's show today.
Mm-hmm.
And Tripp said, he said he was trying to be as objective as possible, in a world where Connor McDavid can win the Conn Smythe on the losing team. He thought that a case could be made, an argument could be had that Jacob Slavin could still be the tournament MVP even on a losing team.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Anyway, I thought he got his moment. I'm glad people are going to, if he was still underrated at all, which I do believe he was, he's not anymore.
No.
Seth Jarvis, what were your thoughts on Jarvis? I thought he was noticeable last night. If it wasn't for Slavin, he probably has a goal in that game.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a wide open net. Slavin blocks it with his leg. And so Jarvis finishes the tournament with 1 assist on the Brad Marchand goal, I believe, in their first game against, was it Sweden, I believe?
Yes.
And then he was scratched in the Finland game, unfortunately. I kind of wanted to see him out there against Aho. But he gets scratched in that game, so he plays 3 of the 4, 1 assist. I thought he proved that he belonged. He was good on the penalty kill. He almost factored into a shorthanded opportunity as well. I don't remember what game that was, but anyway, I thought he showed out. I thought he, made a case for him to be on the Olympic roster next year. I think he will be. Your thoughts on Jarvis?
So Jarvis did exactly what he was brought in there to do. With the Carolina Hurricanes, Seth Jarvis is a top-line player, but you put him on a team like Team Canada, he becomes a role player. He's more of eat up a decent amount of minutes, play good defense, go out there, forecheck, all that type of stuff. for a team like Team Canada, penalty kill, and I think he was on the second power play unit for a little bit. I don't remember. I didn't get to sit down and watch all the games, but as far as like what Team Canada needed him to do, he didn't go in there and be absolutely spectacular, but he didn't need to. They brought him in there to be a depth player. They brought him in there to have some physicality and bring some energy, and he did exactly that. So Seth Jarvis would have been the best Hurricane at this tournament if Jacob Slavin wasn't.
Yeah. Because I thought Aho and Rantanen for Team Finland were both just disappointments.
I did too. I wasn't happy with either one of those.
I mean, the team as a whole had a tough go with the injuries. Their defense got decimated prior to the tournament even starting. But I don't know. I just felt like Finland really wasn't out there playing as hard as, let's just be honest, the U.S. and Canada. And even Sweden, really. Sweden even looked, they looked pretty good. They took Canada overtime and they beat the U.S. in regulation.
Yeah.
So of course, U.S. was missing their entire top line, but talking about that, missing the entire top line, a lot of injuries come out of this tournament. I jotted down some injuries here just off the top of my head. You've got both Tkachuks, Brady and Matthew, who were the two hardest players of any team. These two dudes, they left it all out there, heart and soul.
I have a new appreciation for both of them after this.
I didn't want to say it. I did not want to say it, but hey, and look, nobody hates or hated Matthew Tkachuk more than I did. But when he's wearing your jersey, it's a different kind of appreciation. So yeah, I learned something about myself, because before this tournament started, I was like, how am I going to cheer for the USA?
Yeah, because I did not like 90%. Well, I won't say 90%, but the majority of the guys on that team I don't like.
No, absolutely not.
Hughes.
And I was, yeah, and I didn't really, I watched the games and I wanted them to beat, Sweden and Finland. And look, during that Canada game, I might as well been Uncle Sam. Yeah, I was all in. So,
I was foaming at the mouth that entire time,
dude. They, you put it the right way. A different appreciation for the Tkachuk brothers. But then tomorrow that's going to go back to normal until then.
Oh no, I changed that like right after the game. I also suspended my temporary hatred of Seth Jarvis until this time of next year.
Yeah. So anyway, both Tkachuks, and it looks like Matthew Tkachuk may miss some time for Florida. Actually, I feel pretty darn confident saying that he's going to be out for a while.
Considering he wasn't on the ice that much in the last game in the Four Nations face-off, yeah.
No, he didn't play any of the third period. He didn't play half the second period, and he played not even one shift in overtime. So for him not to play overtime last night, that tells you, especially that guy, he is something wrong for real.
Yeah.
Then there's Shea Theodore. He was hurt for Canada. Reports are that Vinny Trocheck has a broken finger or thumb or something. Austin Matthews missed a game. I wasn't sure if they said it was an illness because yesterday in his, when he was talking to media, he said that it was a new injury, not related to the one that took him out of several games for Toronto. So sounds like that might be an injury as well. And then there's Charlie McAvoy, who wound up in the hospital. Got hurt in that first game, Canada versus Sweden. U.S. versus Finland. Got hurt in that game, and then tried to play through it. Did play through it, and was very good against Canada. And then whatever injury he had in his shoulder developed some kind of infection, and he got admitted to the hospital. So if there's still any lingering questions out there about if these guys gave their all, that shows you right there. They put their body, their seasons, all of it on the line.
That, and I'm wondering, like, Boston's probably going to have something to say to that hospital, like the Bruins organization, because, like, typically when you get an infection like that, that means it wasn't treated properly.
Right.
That's usually what causes that.
There's some talk about that because he was treated in Canada by, I think the doctors were part of the Minnesota Wild that they took for Team USA, and then he got to Boston and the Bruins staff took over, and that's when all this developed. So yeah, there's something going on there.
Yeah, that's just weird how as often as they have to do stuff like that and then that happens, that doesn't make any sense.
All right. A couple comments here. As Bulla Kane says, it was all on Matthews. Let's be real. Oh, he's talking about the game-winning goal.
The game-winning goal, yeah. Matthews definitely missed his assignment too.
He did, but if you go back and watch it, and that's what I was kind of saying, if you go back and watch it, he's kind of skating like him and McDavid come out of the face-off circle, and Matthews goes with McDavid, but the puck winds up on Marner's stick down in the corner, and nobody is on him. If Matthews doesn't skate toward Marner, then Marner comes off the boards with the puck with no pressure. Now, maybe that would, hindsight being 2020, maybe that was the correct play, because then Marner comes in and then maybe Adam Fox gets over there. But I think in the split-second decision that Austin Matthews makes, he's like, I've got to get on this guy. But he leaves Connor McDavid. So I don't know. Maybe it is all on Matthews. That's just kind of what my read on it was. I think if Adam Fox takes Marner like he's supposed to, then Matthews never has to leave McDavid, or the possibility of Matthews leaving McDavid even arises. So maybe it's on both of them. But Adam Fox ain't innocent, I'll tell you that.
No, and I put some of that on Hanifin too, because as much time as Connor McDavid had to shoot that puck, we saw Jacob Slavin do something similar with that play he made on Crosby, where he realized, okay, it doesn't matter if anybody's behind me. If I don't prevent the opportunity here in the high slot, we're cooked.
Yeah.
Hanifin just kind of stood there, and you can't give the best player in the world enough time to make a sandwich and expect him not to score.
But, going back to it, if Matthews buries that puck that Bennington, barely gets his blocker on, that's a goal, and then we never have to worry about it. So
absolutely.
Another inch of elevation, that's a goal. Evan Smith, he says they even mentioned him being the MVP in the broadcast. Yeah, talking about Slavin. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought there was a legitimate possibility. Snowman NC says, thank God he's already signed long-term. I know he took a discount on the current contract, but the discount would have been a lot more expensive if we had to sign him this summer. Yeah, well, look, Jacob Slavin's not going anywhere. Raleigh's his home. He's, he's interwoven in the community. Everybody knows his faith is very strong. His church is here. He's heavily involved in his church. I don't know if, look, I don't think Jacob Slavin was leaving no matter what.
No.
So, I think the 6.45 there's some deferred stuff in there too. So it's actually a little bit higher than that. But
no, it was 6.43 with the not counting the deferment at the end, because the deferment for him was kind of small. Because I remember, so you remember when I did the contract projection for him, and he had every justifiable reason to ask for $8 million.
Yeah.
And he took 6.43. This guy took the biggest discount of probably anybody in the National Hockey League as far as below his value.
But the cap hit's right around 6, isn't it? Like 6.
No, it's 6.43. The cap hit is.
Okay. All right. That's right. Anyway, I think that, I think he wanted to stay and it didn't matter. Like he would have done whatever it took. And, he's a team first guy too. So, but yes, that discount that he took, yeah, you're right. He could have been a little bit higher. Good on the team. But I think that's a team friendly deal. And I think it's still good for him as well. because he's got his trade protection. He's not going anywhere. There's a lot of things built into that contract that helps him as well.
Plus, all of his money's basically front-loaded in it anyway, so it's like he might not even play that entire 8 years.
Yeah. Some more comments. Thayer Krift says, "What's up, guys? The Tri-State boys were absolutely terrible for USA. Very disappointed in Fox and Hughes especially. Jack Hughes is officially a brat merchant." Oh, man, don't say that too loud.
I'm going to have to tell that to my buddy Devil's Joint. Him and I love to talk about everything, but when we start talking about the Canes versus Devils thing, we hate each other.
Yeah, I think that Kreider had a good goal, I think, in the was it the first Canada game? Or was it the Sweden game? Whatever it was. Kreider had a decent goal, but other than that, Kreider wasn't great. Adam Fox's was just god-awful. Jack Hughes, I don't know if he was terrible.
I think he was terrible.
I don't think he was great, but I just think that I don't think he's built for this type of game. Like I think he's kind of like Marty Necas has always been, for Carolina. Like, he's good in the regular season. You get to the playoffs and the physicality ramps up and bye-bye. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. Jack Hughes is Jack Hughes. I think he's going to be, when his career is over, people are going to look back and be like, he never showed up in the playoffs.
I agree. And I think people overvalue him just a little bit to begin with.
I mean, he's good. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's very skilled. He's a very talented player. But
he's no better than Martin Necas, though, in my opinion.
No, he's just, I don't know. He's weird. He's just a weird player. Thayer again says a stiff wind could knock him on his ass. Yeah, that's basically what we're saying. Looked like a child out there. Yeah.
Compared to everybody else, yeah, he did.
Yeah. He's even smaller than Jarvis. Anyway. All right, moving on here. And look, I know we keep talking about this every session. This is like part of our discussion. But it's kind of the biggest storyline following the Hurricanes right now. So to shift away from this Four Nations stuff into more of a Carolina Hurricanes focused discussion, Mikko Rantanen. Now, this is probably me just being angry at this whole thing right now, but I was thinking this morning, I listened to 32 Thoughts with Friedman and heard this segment with, him talking about Rantanen. Talking about Rantanen and, how there was this, there was contract discussions over the Four Nations break. And, he didn't really say whether or not, those discussions were working or where they were at or whatever, or how they were received. But he did say that, and this is a lot of speculation on his part too, that if Rantanen says, no, I'm not signing, that Carolina could, not would or will, could trade Mikko Rantanen again at the trade deadline. Now that's important. That's important to note there. He didn't say they will. He didn't say they would. He said they could. If you don't, you can go back and listen to it. He uses the word could. But anyway, I was listening to that this morning, and I thought to myself, man, I almost wish we wouldn't have made this trade. I don't necessarily agree. Like, I don't know if I really mean that, but that's kind of what my thought was, because I am getting so sick of the discussions around this team and Mikko Rantanen. Oh, he's not going to sign there, and he didn't want to play there, and or his production's dropped off. It must be the coach. It must be the system. It can't be good for the team. They know, the team knows what the discussions are out there. They're not stupid. And, part of me just wishes that, I don't know. I hate to say this, but part of me wishes we don't make this trade because the fact that I'm sick of the discussion about it. Like, if he resigns, though, great. Then I'm happy again. But right now, the fact that it's making me angry because the fact that we traded for this guy, we gave up Natchez and Drury, we traded for him, we brought him in, and I was thinking at the time, like, there's no way they make this trade if they are not confident that they can sign him to a long-term contract. That was my thought. Like, you don't make that. You don't give up what you gave up and hope. Now, if you say, look, I'm going to make this trade and we're going to bring him in and we're going to keep him through the playoffs regardless, and we're going to own that, then okay, do I 100% agree with that technique? Not necessarily, but I'm saying if the team does that and they say, hey, look, if he's a rental, he's a rental and we're owning it, then okay, like, that's your strategy, like, do it. That's fine, whatever. Again, not saying I agree with that. But for you to bring him in and say, well, we're going to try to sign him. If we don't sign him, we're going to flip him at the trade deadline. And again, I don't know. Like, again, this is a lot of speculation. I don't know what's real, what's not. But I'm going to be extremely ticked off if we trade Mikko Rantanen at the trade deadline after giving up Martin Necas and Jack Drury this year, and the return that we get back is underwhelming. I'm going to be ticked off. And do I necessarily agree or believe all the stuff out there in the media? Not 100%. But there's the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I believe that there's something going on. Maybe it's the team putting stuff out there to try to put the pressure on him a little bit. Like, hey, hey, look, we can't go directly to Mikko and say either sign or we're trading you, but we can get it out in the media. And they could go to the agent, but without going directly to the agent either. Hey, let's put this out in the media. Kind of like they did with the Rod Brindamore contract negotiation. Remember that?
Yes.
So do I really believe that they'll flip him at the deadline? No. Like, I think they would keep him as a rental and then just save the money in the offseason. Mm-hmm. Because I don't believe Necas, like, at this point, I don't believe Necas would be on this roster next year regardless.
Nah, he would have been gone during the offseason.
Right. And Jack Drury, yeah, he would have been around too. But look, I like Jack Drury and everything, but those type of players are a dime a dozen.
Yes.
I at this point, and we talked about it before, Tyson Jost, I thought, was playing better than Jack Drury before he went out injured.
Yes.
So look, I'm fine with the losing Jack Drury, whatever. I'm fine with losing Marty Necas. We got Taylor Hall out of it. Couple, maybe Taylor Hall resigns, whatever.
I think he's going to stay.
He might. I think he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
But I think all this stuff we're hearing in the media is literally management trying to put a little bit of pressure on Mikko Rantanen to make a decision. And the decision is going to be, do I want to play in Raleigh or do I want to play somewhere else? It's not going to be, I want this amount of money, because the Hurricanes are going to pay him whatever he wants. That's not the question. It's not money. It's, do you want to be in Raleigh or do you not? So they're going to put the pressure on him through the media, make a decision. And I think, and I believe that, and we talked about this last week too, they're going to know on the trade deadline whether or not he is going to sign a contract. That doesn't mean that he's going to have a contract signed. But if there is a framework in place, then I think that it could go beyond the deadline and they'll be working on it. But look, and I think that's the likely scenario. But I absolutely believe that if he says no and they get a solid no, I absolutely 100% believe that they will trade him at the trade deadline. What do you think?
So absolutely, that's a contingency plan, and I think they went into this knowing that that was a contingency plan in the event that they didn't keep him. And like I said before, they probably gauged Aho, Sean Walker, Jesperi Kotkaniemi about the idea of if Rantanen would want to live somewhere like Raleigh and him signing long term there, because like we already know, the money's not an issue. So here's the other thing that I think needs to be considered with all this noise that's going on in the media. The ink was not dry on this trade before certain reporters, whom I won't name, but you're already going to know who they are, came out and said, oh, well, I have informed speculation that he's going to go to Chicago in the offseason. Okay, first off, why would a guy who's 28 years old in the prime of his career and could go to a team that is going to be competitive for the next several years go to the Chicago Blackhawks, who won't even think about a wild card spot until 2029? For one thing. Second off, another person said, oh, well, I have inside information that he's going to go to the Oilers, and this is the guy who, quote unquote, broke the Taylor Hall trade. But Taylor Hall already knew for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, he said that he was going to Carolina. He already knew. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he knew that way longer than most players do. Before the ink was even dry on this trade, guys are putting this stuff out about this. Where were they at when the entire hockey world got blind? Other than Frank Saravelli, the entire hockey world got blindsided with this. Nobody saw this coming. Yeah. Everybody thought he was staying in Colorado, but suddenly these guys come out of the woodwork before the sun's even up the next day, talking about where Mikko Rantanen's going to sign during the offseason, but they didn't know that he was getting traded. I don't buy that. I think that's all media noise. It's all just not true. And most of the time it ends up not materializing into anything, not to mention the people saying these things. A lot of them are not very refutable. Yeah. Or, excuse me, not very reputable and are highly refutable. Mm-hmm. So I don't buy any of that. I think there's a contingency to trade him. And a fun thing to talk about is what do you do what do you try to get if you do have to trade him? Yeah. I'm still convinced he's signing. And like you said, if he is still here on March 8th, that means they're getting close to getting a deal done.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think, I'm like we've been saying, you may not have a contract prior to, but if it goes to March 8th and he's still on this roster, I'd say it's a safe bet it's happening. And if not, it will be because he went back on something that he said.
Wouldn't be the first time that's happened to us.
Exactly. But look, again, before we move on and talk about what a trade could look like, I think the likely look, all this media noise started with a bunch of people, non-insiders that claim to be insiders, or maybe they're connected to certain teams, basically going out and putting these little things, these little hints out there, trying to get, a little bit of conversation happening around certain teams to try to maybe make something like that. I don't know, materialize, right? Let's put Edmonton out there, so maybe him or his agent will hear that and start a discussion with, Edmonton or whatever. They try to materialize things. These GMs and these front offices, they use the media in certain ways to communicate really with people and other organizations or whatever, in times that they can't have direct communication. Mm-hmm. I mean, we saw that firsthand as Canes fans with the Rod Brindamore situation.
And Jordan Stahl, if we think about it too, because there was a day where it's like they were like, it's at an impasse, and everyone's like, the next thing you know, the media is like, oh, he's going to go to Pittsburgh to finish his career. And then he signed the next day. And then the day after that, he said, yeah, I was never going to leave, or something like that.
But this stuff with Elliot Friedman, I absolutely 100% believe that there is something out there. Like, Friedman doesn't say stuff, unless there's something behind it.
Correct.
And now, again, with a lot of his thing this morning on 32 Thoughts was some speculation and what could happen. But again, this could very well be Tulsky and company or Dundon and company putting these little tidbits into the media to try to put pressure on a player or a player's camp or whatever to try to move the needle in one direction. And I absolutely believe that that's what this is about.
Yeah, because if Mikko does get traded again, he's risking tanking his value really badly. Because if he has to go to another team and learn a new system again after he just was here for a couple of months, you're talking about him losing $1 million on his AAV every year if he doesn't play well. Or if he goes to a team that, like, he wouldn't get traded to a team that doesn't make the playoffs, but let's say somehow he did, and then he doesn't perform in the playoffs, and that takes more off of his resume there. He has nothing to lose by signing here, and he's going to get full trade protection anyway. If he decides he's not happy here next year, he decides where he goes.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know about, if he gets traded again, I think it'll be to a team that is bringing him in as a pure rental. Maybe not. I mean, maybe he goes somewhere and he signs there. I don't know if it comes to that. But something Friedman talked about was, the fact that Chicago retained 50% of the Mikko Rantanen cap hit. Carolina could retain another 50% of the cap hit that they currently have. And next thing you know, you're trading Mikko Rantanen with like a $2.5 million cap hit.
Yeah, I think it was like 2.32 or something like that. It ain't much.
No, whatever. I was rounding, right? So 2.3 to 2.5, whatever it is, anybody in the league could make room for that. So now, basically, you're in a trade war, right? Anybody could trade for him. Now the value is on its way up, and it's going to put that upward pressure. I mean, who knows what you could get? And maybe you don't trade him to a contender. Maybe you find a team that wants to take a shot at signing him, and you can get a big, better haul out of them. But it probably would be a contender that is willing to bring him in as a rental, because a lot of teams that wouldn't take that risk that aren't bringing him in as a rental. So, but yeah, what do you think that would look like? I mean, what do you think the ceiling would be on a return for, if that was a Mikko Rantanen at a $2.3 million cap hit? What could you garner out of that trade?
You know what I would try to get? Winnipeg is still first in the league, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that they're safely a contender. They have the best goalie on the planet. Their defense is really good. But if they want to add a little punch up front, someone like Mikko Rantanen playing with Mark Scheifele would be pretty awesome. You send him there. You're sending him to a Western Conference team, so you don't have to worry about seeing him again unless you both go to the Stanley Cup Finals. Get Nikolai Ehlers and Nino Niederreiter. I'm dead serious. Get Ehlers and Niederreiter. You put Ehlers with Aho and Jarvis. You put Niederreiter, reunite him with Stahl and Martinook like they were back in the day. Drop Carrier down to the fourth line. Good.
I mean, that would be great. However, my whole thing is these teams that are contenders that are going to want to bring in him as a rental at that dollar amount, they're not looking at sending anything back. That like a roster player. Like I think teams would be willing to give up picks and prospects. Like I think you'd have a hard time, which is another reason why I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't either.
I don't think you get a roster player back. I mean, say you trade him to Toronto. Is Toronto going to want to ship Mitch Marner back in a return?
Probably not.
Right before a playoff run and screw up that chemistry? Absolutely not. And just think of it on our side. What if we didn't have Rantanen? What if Rantanen was sitting up in I don't know, Nashville or something, and they were in our predicament and they trade him at the deadline and we bring him on? And say Natchez was still on this roster. Are we going to send Natchez back for Mikko Rantanen at the trade deadline when we're gearing up to go on a playoff run?
Probably not, no.
I don't know. We did it this time because we had a month to try to sign him. And you're bringing Taylor Hall in too. So I just think that, I don't know. I don't see a Winnipeg or a Vegas or a Toronto or whoever sending back any rostered players. Now, maybe you get a first round pick or two or a top end prospect or, I don't know. That's just why I just think I have a hard time seeing him getting traded to a contender.
I don't think that he's getting traded. It's just, if we do, I think that you can still get a pretty good return for him. It's just like, if you send an elite guy like him to Winnipeg and say, I want a top 6 forward in exchange, being Ehlers, and a guy who's one of the best utility wingers in the league, and they're not even having to eat a whole lot of money to get it done, and they get a chance to get him signed long term, they might bite on something like that. They would at least think about it, I think. I really
the number one team in the league?
Yeah, I think they would. I really do. Nino Niederreiter is not the hardest guy to replace, and neither is Nikolai Ehlers. Mikko Rantanen, on the other hand, that's a different story. I would at least make that phone call, and you might have to sweeten the pot in some way or another. But
maybe.
If I had Nikolai Ehlers and Nino Niederreiter on my team, and someone offered up Mikko Rantanen, and I thought I had a good chance to sign, kind of like what we did with trading Natchez and Drury out, albeit earlier, then maybe they think about it. It depends. I'm still pretty convinced he's going to sign. If we didn't have the flu go through the locker room and all kinds of other stuff, maybe it's already done. But I think that's one of the big factors as to why it's not done. My projection of it is done for as of tomorrow, because I thought he would have been signed by tomorrow, but that's not happening. And I thought I made a pretty good case as to why I thought it was going to happen that way. And it just didn't. So that was one of those things that I just got wrong. But I just don't. Carolina went out of their way to get this guy. It's not the same as the Gensel situation. We knew that Gensel could potentially be a rental because a lot of our core was leaving, had a lot of uncertainty of the offseason, and we were going for it. So we went out there and got the best free agent available.
Right.
This is different. We were looking for someone long-term future. You go out there, get 100 points, and take Aho with you while you're at it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird situation, man. I don't. Like, you look at this and you'd think, like, if we were to trade him at the trade deadline, the return would be immaculate. But, are you going to trade a pending free agent, which essentially is a rental to any team until they sign him, unless you happen to figure out some kind of sign and trade, which, I guess could be a possibility. If he says, hey, I want to go play at this place, and they're willing to pay him, you could technically do a sign and trade. Maybe you get something back like that. But outside of that, I just don't see them trading him to a non-contender who's just going to take on a possibility of essentially a rental for a hefty return. So that means they've got to trade him to a contender. And there's very few situations out there. And I know you say the Winnipeg situation could work, maybe, in your thoughts, but I just don't think Winnipeg sends Nikolai Ehlers away before a playoff run. I see them wanting to add somebody like Rantanen, but not at the expense of Ehlers. Like, I just don't know if does that really make him better? Yeah, Rantanen's better than Ehlers, but if you start talking about chemistry and all that stuff, there's a chance that it screws it up.
Yeah, it depends on if it's a chance they would be willing to take. And I wouldn't even bring up Ehlers as a possibility if he wasn't a pending UFA as well.
Right. It's rental for rental, basically.
Yeah, essentially. That's what I'm going for. It's rental for rental, and then another guy who has, I think, 1 year left after this on his contract, if I remember correctly, with Winnipeg.
Yeah. That would be the same thing if you could figure out something for Marner. Like, if maybe, but I don't believe Toronto could sign. I don't think Toronto could afford Rantanen long term without
with the core four there.
No. But if they send Marner out, then maybe they can do some gymnastics and get it done. But I don't know. Maybe you could figure out some kind of sign and trade between. Of course, I don't even know if Rantanen would want to go to Toronto, so I don't know.
That's the other thing why I'm wondering why the media is having a lot of the speculation that it's having. It's like I said, none of them saw this trade coming yet. They already know what he's going to do on July 1st, and they already know where he's going to be on March 8th. I don't buy that. So It's like, and then like when things do come out in the media about it, like there's been very little said about it. And, the guy went out of his way to get Jack Roslovic the Rolex that he told him he would get to give him his number.
Yeah.
If he was only going to be here for a couple of months, would he really care about it that much? Or, you know, I know I keep going back to the gloves thing and it's kind of a joke at this point, but still, it's like we should be more worried if George Alves walked up to him and said, hey, here's your HG12s. And he'd just be like, no, I don't need them. Don't worry about it. Then we would have a problem. Things like that would indicate he didn't want to stay.
Yeah. And again, I think a lot of this, you know, I know I keep going in circles here, but I think a lot of this media stuff right now is just a tactic to put pressure on him to make a decision. But if he says no, then I absolutely see them trying to trade him. Comments. Snowman NC says, I don't see how you can get enough value back from the first trade to make it worth it. And that's, I mean, yeah. I mean, like I said, if you trade him to a contender as a rental, there's going to be a bidding war. You could get a return. I just have a hard time believing that it's going to be a hockey trade. I think somebody, maybe somebody will give up a haul, but it's going to be futures, in my opinion. I know you disagree with that, Brandon.
Oh, see, what I'm saying, though, is entirely hypothetical, and it would be a long shot for something like that to happen. That would be like hey, we made this offer on March 6th, and they accepted it before the deadline on March 7th type of thing. Like, it's a 1 in a million shot, but I would rather hold on to him and try to sign him after the trade deadline than make a trade that gave you less of a return than something kind of like what I was just talking about. That was my whole thing with it. I don't think ever in a million years that trade would happen. I'm just saying, if it were up to me, if I'm holding the cards when it comes to Rantanen, I'm holding him for ransom at that. So that way, if I do have to trade him, I get something good back.
Mighty Mike says, guys, I'm sick of all the media saying he's not signing and that we are trading him at the deadline. I hope he balls out and he wants to be here. Yeah, man, I'm in the same boat. I'm sick of it too. I'm sick of talking about it every week, but we have to, because every time we get ready to record one of these live streams, like it's like the biggest talking point there is. And it's, it's a big deal for the Canes. I mean, it is. This guy could shape our next 8 years. I mean, he could be the difference in a cup or no cup. So it is, it's a big deal. But yeah, I'm sick of it too, Mike. B says, Tulsky said in an interview with Tripp and Mike that the only way he's not signing is because Rantanen doesn't want to be here. Yeah, absolutely. Money's not the thing. Money is not the thing. It's up to where Rantanen wants to live for 8 years. Catherine Bartlett, she says, looking forward to the next few games to see how Rantanen settles into the team. Now that all the shock, flu, Four Nations, etc. are behind him, I think Tulsky has a very creative deal up his sleeve. I hope so. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I think, hopefully he can kind of sit back, or hopefully he sat back on that flight from Raleigh to Toronto today and kind of took a deep breath and said, hey, all right, let's get them, X amount of games left. Let's get rolling.
And hopefully Aho was sitting next to him on the plane. Hey, did you sign yet? Did you sign yet? No. How about now?
Yeah.
No, that would be something that Jarvis would do, not Aho.
Maybe Jarvis is doing it. Mighty Mike says, preach, Brandon. You laid out a good case last episode about Rance signing with us. I agree with you. I think he's signing A. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Hasbullacane says the return will be through the roof. We're not just going to sell him for pennies pre-deadline. Yeah, I think that's what we've been saying. I don't think they're going to trade him for pennies either, which is why, I think they'll absolutely try to, but I just don't know. I don't know if you can get the return that you want. And that may be a reason that it doesn't happen. I mean, we saw Natchez, they tried to trade Natchez all offseason this past offseason. They couldn't get the return they wanted, so he stayed. They qualified him, right? Or gave him a contract, which, yeah, he was an RFA. So that's why he stayed, because they couldn't get a return. And I just don't, like I said, I keep saying it, and I'm going to keep beating this dead horse, but I don't know if you can get, what you gave up. Sound the siren. Says Finland was missing Miro Heiskanen, and that's a huge loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if they're watching. They might be watching behind a little bit.
Yeah, because Miro Heiskanen is one of the best two-way defensemen in the league. He's right up there with Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
So, their blue line was absolutely decimated. And the way they managed to make the game against Canada interesting, they had 6 forwards out there when they pulled the goalie, and they scored twice. So, if they had their regular defenseman in there that they wanted, that could have been a completely different game.
Who was the other one, too? They were missing Heiskanen and this guy from the Flyers, right?
Ristolainen.
Yeah, Ristolainen. That's right. Yeah. So missing both those guys, and then they had to bring in a defenseman that only played 14 NHL games.
Oh, the guy from Nashville.
Was it Nashville or New York?
I think it was Nashville. Oh, I can't remember. It was Nashville. I can't remember his name though. It was hard to keep up with. It was quite the carousel of in and out when it came to the Finnish blue line, but. They'll have a better showing when they have their regular defenseman. That team is significantly better than what it looked like in that tournament.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's the talk on Mikko Rantanen, and that's the look. We keep talking about it. Hopefully, next time we record or we do a live, hopefully he's signed a contract and we can put this to bed and start looking toward the future. But until then, we're going to talk about it. So. All right, let's visit the state of the team to kind of remind everybody where we're at right now in the regular season. Because I know I had to go back this morning and look. I was like, man, when do we play again? Like I knew we played Saturday, but as far as the upcoming schedule, I was lost. So tomorrow, at this time in 24 hours, they will actually be playing. But tomorrow at Toronto, 7:00 puck drop. It's an NHL Network game. I think it'll probably still be on FanDuel Sports Network.
It will.
Usually it's a simultaneous broadcast.
Yeah, it's just if you use like the streaming service like I do, like ESPN Plus, since I'm out of market, it won't be on there. So like I either have to log into the FanDuel app, which sucks and doesn't work on Roku a lot, or I got to go out to watch it. And I'll probably just do the latter. Yeah.
Yeah, and then anyway, they play Saturday or tomorrow. If you're listening to this today, then it's tonight. And then they get 2 days off, and then they're in Montreal on Tuesday night. That's a 7:00 p.m. puck drop. Then they come back home, get 1 day off, and then we got Whalers night against Buffalo, which is Thursday night, the 27th. That's also a 7 p.m. puck drop. I love Whalers night.
I'm going to try and make it this year. I think I'm actually going to make it this time. Yeah. My plan is I'm going to come down there on the day of, and then I'm going to crash with AB. And then on Saturday, Jeremy's supposed to drive down, and then we're going to go to the game against Edmonton on Saturday and then Calgary on Sunday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's the whole plan right now. I still got to finalize everything, but I'm planning on finally making it. I've not been down there since November, I think it was. I came down there.
Where we tailgated.
Yeah, whatever weekend it was, we played against St. Louis one night, and
yeah.
Who did we play the night before?
I don't know, but it was a win. I do remember that.
We won both games. The only game that I've been to this year
was it Jersey?
No, it wasn't New Jersey. I probably would have left with my knuckles bleeding. Love you, Devil's Joint. Love you, Neil. Let's see. I cannot remember who we played. I think it was 2 Western Conference teams, though.
Okay. You got tickets?
AB's giving me his other one for the 28th, and then I'm going to get a couple for the 1st and the 2nd. I'm going to see about getting 3 of them so me, him, and Jeremy can all sit together so we can cause some chaos.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. That's
Snowman says Ottawa. Was it Ottawa?
It was Ottawa. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. It wasn't 2 Western Conference teams. I couldn't remember for the life of me. That was when Spencer Martin. Yeah, Spencer Martin shut out.
That's right.
And then that one guy posted the thing about, Brady Tkachuk doesn't even know who Spencer Martin is. I'm like, yeah, because he can't score against him. How is he supposed to know?
Spencer Martin threw the puck at him when he gloved that
was
last shot, right? Yes, I remember that game. Yes.
Yeah, no, I was there because me and AB were losing our minds when he did that. The way he fluttered it off like that, I was like, wow, that is great.
That's
Man,
awesome, man. Well, if you're
I
gonna be
like
here this
Spencer Martin
weekend,
a
then
lot. Yeah, absolutely.
we need to figure out some kind of pregame something.
Yeah, just because of work, I have to really, really finalize stuff. But as everything stands right now, I will be coming down on Thursday morning, and I'm going to take my gear with me and try to skate it Invisalign because I haven't got to do that yet.
Nice. All right. Well, let me know for sure.
Absolutely.
Let me know if you need help with tickets or whatever. We'll have some pregame beers in the lot. Whatever works.
Absolutely.
So,
if you want to buy me a bunch of those end of days distillery cocktails, like I will Venmo you whatever is required.
Right on. All right, I got you. Let me know whatever you need.
If you want to put a Virginia tariff on me, I'm cool with it. You'll get your money.
Hey, look. Don't put it past me. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so yeah, 3 games remaining in the month of February: at Toronto, at Montreal, and then Whalers night against Buffalo. There's no reason that you can't win all 3 of these. Toronto may be a test, but especially in Toronto, but they can do it. I think you need to get 4 points out of these 3 games for sure. You need to beat Montreal. You need to beat Buffalo. So, and then we hit March, and then we have a month and a half remaining until round 1 of the playoffs. If we take a look at the standings, currently Carolina sits in 2nd place in the Metropolitan Division. Let's see, we're 10 points back of the Capitals, who I really hope they had nobody play in the 4 Nations. So hopefully that equates to them coming back rusty, and maybe they'll go on a losing streak here. One can only hope. But anyway, 10 points back of Washington. Washington does have a game in hand. Carolina has played 56 games, and that leaves us 26 games remaining. Right?
Yes.
My math right? Yep, 26 games remaining. They are currently 33, 19, and 4. That's good for 70 points in the standings. That's 2 points ahead of the New Jersey Devils, who are in 3rd place. Carolina also has a game in hand on the Devils. So, and then we look back, in the Metro, Columbus is sitting at 60 points. So Carolina's 10 points ahead of Columbus, 12 points ahead of the Rangers, who are at 58 points and 5th in the division. And then the Islanders, the Penguins, and the Flyers all below 58. So what I'm saying is, having said all that, what I mean to say is that Carolina's in a pretty good spot as far as the playoff standings go. Unless something ridiculous happens and we go on some, knock on wood, go on some crazy losing streak, or some team behind us just goes on a freaking roll, there should be no reason that Carolina is not playing in the first round against the Devils. Unless Washington happens to tank, which I'm still waiting for, to be honest.
No, see, what I think is going to happen with them, I've seen this movie with them. I mean, I've seen it with us too, but they invented the whole great regular season die in the 2nd round trope. That was, they had that trademarked.
Until they won the cup.
Yeah, until they won the cup. And then that was the year they weren't supposed to win it, and they finally did. And it's like, if we were to play Washington in the playoffs, it would take 7 games. It would be dynamically a very similar series than when we played them the first time. The only difference is we have a significantly better team than we had back then. They have a team that's better than the one that won the cup, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Carolina drags it out and wins a 7-game series. It'll be the same situation as last time. If you don't beat us in 5, you're not going to beat us at all.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm looking at these playoff standings right now, you're looking at, if it ended today, Washington would be playing the Red Wings. The Red Wings have been on a freaking heater
since the coaching change.
Yeah. I mean, and then some of these other teams that are in the mix for that wild card spot, Columbus. I think Columbus is going to start to trend down. They've dealt with a lot of injuries. The Bruins,
they're getting two guys.
Go ahead.
The Jackets are getting Jenner and Marchenko back though.
That's right.
So they might. You know what? Yeah. After everything they've been through, I hope they can make the playoffs. I really do.
I mean, and look, the Rangers still have a heck of a roster.
Yeah.
You know, if they happen to click back into gear, if Panarin and if Zibanejad figures it out, you know, they made the Miller trade. You know, maybe this Four Nations break kind of lets them get reset. Look, that's a team that could legitimately go on a huge run, and they could be a wild card. And I could see a team like the Red Wings or the Rangers getting past the Capitals in the first round. I just could. But yeah. So yeah, that's the standings. That's where we're at, just to kind of refresh everybody's memory. We've got a heck of a March ahead of us. Edmonton, Calgary, Detroit, Boston, Winnipeg, Tampa, Detroit again. You've got the LA Kings in there. Yeah, it's going to be a heck of a month. And then you got Washington in April twice. You got the Rangers in there, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa. Yeah, so it's not – look, no easy nights.
No.
From now till the end of the season. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm ready to get back going here. It was a good Four Nations, but I'm ready to get back to the regular season. All right. Well, I think I'm done. Brandon, anything to add? Any more thoughts before we get out of here?
Nope. I'm gonna get the bag packed up so I can go to the rink in the morning before I go to work, and that's gonna be it for me tonight. I've got the marksman game on over here, and that's gonna be all. And my co-host is over there doing his thing.
Right on. All right, buddy. Well, I enjoyed it. Thanks for coming in tonight. AB, we
Absolutely.
missed AB. I thought he said he was going to hop in, but he never did. So it is what it is. All right, man. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to and watching Session 72. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, follow, rate, review, all that good stuff. I know we say it, and y'all still never do it. So this one time, just do it for me, right? If you're listening to this, wherever you get your podcast, on the podcast form, rate us, review us, follow us, tell a friend, all that good stuff. We appreciate the community out there that listens and interacts. For the most part, y'all that interact on X. Some of y'all out there are some turds, man. Sometimes I want to reach through the phone and smack the crap out of you, but that's all good. We're good.
Oh no! At least once a day, I see something that makes me want to do that.
Anyway, yeah. So enjoy the hockey. Enjoy the Toronto game. We'll probably be back after. Might not be until after Whalers night, so it might not be until this time next week that we're doing Session 73. So hopefully we're coming back with 6 points, 3-0 through the week. All right. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in Session 73.
Bye.